Are you searching for a deeper understanding of your faith?
Inspiring Philosophy is your go-to resource for exploring the rich tapestry of Christian thought.
From biblical archaeology to philosophy of mind, we dive into the topics that matter.
Our content bridges faith and understanding, offering insights into God's existence and the reliability of the New Testament.
Join a community where faith meets reason and discover the answers you've been seeking.
Inspiring Philosophy, where faith meets understanding.
Erase the name. Now every idol sounds the same. A generation on its knees, begging comfort, killing peace. Oh, this is the price of pride, dancing while the truth just dies. We fear the cross, embrace the chain. Our freedom's just another cage. In the ruins, a whisper stands, scarred and radiant, pierced hands. The silence breaks, the dark retreats. The king returned and thunder breaks. Where the last light fading under broken skies, chasing meaning in electric lights. But grace still burns where shadows fall. The dead arise, he conquers all. Take one last breath before the dawn takes back the
What is up, my puppies? Bark, give me some barks in the chat if you're pumped to get dorky tonight. Tim is going to be late, so it's just going to be me for a little bit here. And what we're doing tonight is basically we reviewed on the main IP page yesterday the debate between Joshua Sijuwade and Dan McClellan. And some of you guys just wanted a little bit more dorkiness. So Tim and I said, screw it. We'll do another stream, get a little dorky with you guys. And we're going to cover some more in-depth stuff. So look at this. You guys are so fun. You get, see, this is what it's all about. You guys, you know, Mike is just always leaving us to do boring. Mike thinks we're boring, man. When we do this dorky stuff. No, we're having so much fun here, you guys. Look at all these barks. Here we go. That's what's up. You know, look, we even got the skeptics barking. That's what's up. That's what's up, guys. I'm super excited to do this tonight. So I'm gonna bring up the debate here real quick, and then I'm gonna get into some super chats, and then I figure we can kind of just jump into things until Tim shows up. Let me just get the debate up. And just so you guys know too, like I didn't prepare any slides or anything. I didn't really prepare anything for this. What I'm hoping that we end up doing today actually is basically we go through this together. Instead of, and you guys tell me, by the way, if this isn't going to be helpful or not. But long story short, I don't want you guys to just get answers. You know, I want you guys to see the real process of, you know, okay, how does this fit with this? How does this fit with this? And then like thinking on the fly, rather than me coming here with a predetermined set of answers. I want you guys to see what it's like when we kind of actually just dig into things a little bit more. Because I want you guys to be powerful. I want you guys to have high hikmah. You know what I'm saying? So if you guys are cool with that, that's what I want to do. Let me know in the chat if you're cool with that. Thank you, Novan for the $10 super chat, bark. And Randy Bales, man, with the memberships, dude. You are a giga Chad. We need to make okay, again, this isn't the main IP page. So there's no rules here. So one of the rules here is that when you guys are being giga Chads, you guys should be rewarded for being giga Chads. Maybe we need to come up with some rewards. I don't know what that's going to look like. Maybe we need to have like stickers or something like that. We'll figure it out. No dawa, please. I'm not doing dawa. I'm just saying you have high hikmah. Okay? Or is that too triggering too? Matt, there's no rules. There's only one rule, and that rule is there are no rules. Okay? The chat has spoken. There are no rules. Look at this. Free OnlyFans. There we go. That's I don't control that. Remember, the Dawa guys control the OnlyFans website right now. So all right, guys. Let me pull up a few more things here real quick. Visit onlyfans.com. That says yes. Let me pull up a few more things here. I got some time steps I want to go to, and I need to make sure Tim actually has the link for this. I'm just gonna send it to him in Discord. And in the meantime, guys, put in some questions in the chat. I'll prioritize super chats, but I will also just kind of take random stuff in the chat. So if you have stuff that's on your mind before we start pulling up the stream, and going into more depth and stuff like that, go ahead and put some chats in the comments while I send this to Tim. Okay, cool. Let's see. We got another super chat here already. Can we see photos of you? Look, we lost privileges to do photos of Than because the Dawa guys are going to look at my aura. So we can't do that right now. Is C the right answer? It's always C. what I don't know. I don't think there's a multiple choice question here, but you know, man, yeah, you got it right. You got it right. All right, let's see if we get any questions before we get into anything else here. Than, do you think that a degree is still necessary to do apologetics professionally? Okay, guys, look, I don't hide this, by the way. I'm a college dropout. Um, there's a long, detailed story with that, but the short version of it is that there's somebody in my life that had access to my savings account that I built up for college when I was a kid, and this person who had access took $60K and gambled it away. And so I was also helping, I was helping pay some bills for my parents just because they're immigrants and that's how it goes. And so at that point, I just decided to drop out. So I'm a college dropout, and that's not me saying I did this all by myself. I do truly believe that it's only by the grace of God that I've been able to do what I can do here and build the knowledge base that I have and all that stuff. I seriously do genuinely believe that this is something the Lord has given me. And that doesn't make me special. It just makes me a tool in this grand scheme, the 4D chess game that God is doing, right? So I don't think that a degree is necessary. And I've tried numerous times to talk to different scholars that I'm friends with about even just finishing my undergrad. And every single time, both on a historical side and on the philosophical side, I've had scholars be like, don't waste your money. Don't waste your time. You already know what you're doing. And like, I've had skeptical, like scholars that you would think, it would have nothing to do with me. Scholars that you would think like, oh, they're with the Derek Myth Visions. They're with the Pelagias. The scholars I work with, those guys, I've had private calls and they've told me like, don't waste your time. Now, if you want to get a degree to get a teaching profession, I think that's worth it. But like, it's up to you, man. Hopefully that helps. I'm just trying to share my experience with this. So yeah. Is mayonnaise an instrument? Yes, it is, Patrick. All right. Let me find just a few more questions here that are real, and then we'll get started. Let's see. Here we go. Regarding ontothematic roles in aspectivalism, can this lend credence to a form of the filioque, possibly an Eastern view? It isn't actually. It fits very neatly with an Eastern view. So Sijuwade is EO, if you didn't know that. So the model. Well, I'm not going to speak for him, but I'll just say this: the topic of the Trinity was one of the reasons why he left Catholicism and went to the Eastern Church. And this is part of the question. So let me know if that helps. My wife says, leave your wife for me. Okay, well, listen. I will leave you and then come back to you if that's what you want. I'm still got a little sniffly, guys. All right. Okay. One more thing. Let's see if we can find one or two more questions, and then, or if there's nothing, then we're good. Somebody said, I seriously thought I had a degree in theology or something because of his knowledge. No, man. I'm a dropout. Yeah. Oh yeah, my wife actually pointed out something else that you guys it's worth knowing. My degree is completely unrelated to the field that I'm working in now. The degree that I was attempting to get is unrelated. Because I was originally going for sports nutrition and kinesiology. Like I was a bodybuilding coach. That's how I applied the knowledge that I had from school. So yeah. This is when you promote a new book, then. Guys, look, if we can like somehow raise enough money to afford me not making content for a little bit, yeah, that'll give me time to actually make my book. You guys aren't asking any more serious questions, I don't think so. Oh, wait. This is unrelated, but how could you please help me understand how Adam gave us the sin nature of evolution is true? It's not what the topic of the stream is today. So what I would encourage you to do is go to our main IP page, go check our Genesis 1 through 11 series. And then if you have questions still after that, let me know. I would also definitely recommend looking at the work of Michael Heiser on this topic. Okay. I think we're good on questions, preliminary stuff. Cool. All right, let me pull up the stream here. Beep, boop, beep, boop. Share screen. Tab. Boop. All right. Gosh, you guys, college makes you gay. Stop. Why did that get me? Why did that? Oh man, can you guys imagine how gay I'd be if I finished college? Then the Dabo guys would be going crazy, man. All right, here is the beep boop. Let me know if you guys.
Trinity is an attempt to construct a philosophically defensible framework that allows us to solve an algebra problem that we find in the Bible.
This wasn't an algebra problem. It's an algebra problem if you state the Trinity in the way that you stated it, but which I believe is erroneous.
Back in February, Dr. Dan McClellan said this: the problem is with the Trinity itself and the folks who are trying to enforce it. And the fit for this video has been data over dogma. I reached out on Twitter to say, let's get into a...
Can you guys hear that? Nobody's telling me if they can hear it in the chat. So I'm mad at you guys now. I'm disappointed. Because here's the thing. Mike's normally running the streams. I have no clue what I'm doing here. So we're going to have to... You guys, I need your help. Okay, cool. All right. So okay, so let me ask you guys this then, now that we have the stream pulled up. Give me something you actually want to cover. Like, there's a lot of things that Dan says here. For instance, he talks about the distinction between the anthros theos and the title o theos. So God in the generic sense versus the God, right? Or the most high God when it's speaking of the Father. We can talk about that. We can also talk about Dan's Psalm 82 argument that he talks about when in John 10, Jesus quotes Psalm 82 and Dan uses this as an argument to say that Jesus is calling himself God. There's a bunch of things we can talk about, and it might be even worth covering just the preliminaries on what monarchical Trinitarianism is. Matt clip all this times, and Nathan blames himself for stuff. Look, it's all my stuff. It's my fault at the end of the day. I'm stupid. I'm stupid. Okay. Hopefully there's Muslims listening and they clip that. Muslims, go ahead and get your clip. Then admits he's stupid. He's stupid. Don't you see? It's the proof. All right. So looks like people are saying you guys want to talk about the anthros thing, Psalm 82, yada. Let's go. Let me pull up Sijuwade's paper too, to be honest with you, because that's going to be helpful. Okay. Let's do this. Hopefully you guys will be able to see this if I switch to this tab. Why isn't... Wait, hold on. There we go. My default PDF reader is in the wrong thingy. There we go. And share this tab instead. Okay. Can you guys see this okay? Is that too small, or are you guys good? Maybe I can do this. Or one of these. Whoa, there you go. There you go. Okay. So maybe it's worth going over this really quickly. This is a paper from Joshua Sijuwade. It's a 2025 paper, Conciliar Trinitarianism, a philosophical analysis. Okay. So there's a lot of things we can kind of go over, but this is the basic idea of what Conciliar Trinitarianism says. There's one God, the Father, and there are two relationally distinct divine persons, the Son and Spirit, who are homoousios, or as Junior would say, homoousios, with the one God, the Father. So we should probably unpack that a little bit. Is everybody clear on what's happening when we say this? Because if you're not, what I can do is actually, I'm pretty sure Sijuwade has a drawing somewhere. Let's see. I could have sworn he had a drawing in this picture. And if he, this might be a little too technical. Yeah, we're not going to go over that. I know that's going to be too technical. That's way deep into the metaphysics. So let's just see how you guys are feeling about what I'm just showing you here, and then we'll go, and then we'll move forward if we need to with other stuff. So let's see what everybody's saying in the chat. All right, somebody asked a question, but hold on. How do you answer Dan's objection about presupposing univocality? Then how do you address his point about different books having competing understandings of the Trinity? Yeah, okay, this is a good question. So the answer to this question is it depends. Because Dan is right if, let's put it this way, if your argument for the Trinity rests on pointing to a text in one book and pointing to... Tim, you're doing like the blackest thing right now.
Oh, so good to be here, man. Whew.
It's about time you showed up, man.
Thanks for warming them up for me, man.
Yeah. But yeah, so let's I think it's important to answer this question by getting you people to understand what univocality is. Okay. Univocality is when you are assuming that every author has the same intention and theological framework working in their cognitive backdrop, that they have the same, they're all speaking with the same quote unquote voice. Okay. And so if you, Tim Aura farming, dude, he was just being a creep anyway. And so let's put it this way. Imagine you make an argument and your argument uses a verse from John and then uses a verse from Genesis. And then you're arguing, hey, they mean the exact same thing, therefore the Trinity is true. Dan is just right that would be presupposing univocality. And that's not how we want to argue, okay? However, there's a very crucial distinction in how you can argue with those very same data points. It's just the way you frame the conversation and how you qualify the data point, which is if you point to John's gospel and then you say, hey, John is using a logos tradition here, right, of the creation account, and he's using a tradition that you can find in the Memra, of the Memra, for instance, in the Targums, and he's using a tradition you find in Philo, and he's using a composite allusion to all those traditions altogether, that is not univocality. You are actually recreating what the biblical author now is probably thinking without presupposing what's being said in Genesis is the same thing as what's being said in John. And I would argue that the stronger argument, independent of the univocality concern anyway, is going to be this multi-interdimensional, intertraditional approach that I've just offered to be the better way to go. Tim, do you have any thoughts on that?
Nah, man, that sounds awesome. Sounds really cool, actually.
Yeah. Tim's just here to hype me up, I guess. Okay, so Tim, all we're doing right now, really quickly, is before we get into any of the timestamps, we're just kind of going over the Conciliar Trinitarianism paper.
Sick.
Not in depth, right? We're not going to go through all the metaphysics and stuff like that. We're just going over what monarchical Trinitarianism says. Did I skip past there it is. So that's all. Okay, so everybody, Conciliar Trinitarianism. By the way, Sijuwade kind of changed the name of it. That's all. So It's still monarchical Trinitarianism. He's just changed the name because now there's other stuff happening in the background. Okay, so does everybody understand? Put a 1 in the chat if everybody is clear and chill with what this is saying. One God the Father, and there are two relationally distinct divine persons, the Son and Spirit, who are homoousios, of the same substance, with the one Father, with the one God, the Father. Lamb's in there saying 3. Like, dude, wait, what? Why are people saying 3? Y'all just trolling, bro. Okay. Ask your questions in the chat then. If you're a little concerned, confused, what's going on? I need to know how you're feeling. And
it's crazy.
What'd you say, Tim?
Three gods.
With 3 gods in a sense. Let's see. Nobody's telling me what they're confused about. If you are, they are confused. So I'm just going to assume that you guys are chill. Oh, okay. What does homoousios mean? Of the same substance.
Same divinity.
So, yeah, the same divinity, right? So when we say there
I prefer
not
to say.
Go ahead.
I prefer to say same divinity. As far
too.
as a strategy goes to keep things open, because some people are like saying, people get confused about essence, people get confused about substance, etc., and so forth. It's plainly simple. You can just go to John 1:1, right? It's going to talk about divinity in the qualitative sense. You can get it right away. We don't have to, import, specific theses that people are going to make assumptions in their head. So I prefer to say just personally same divinity, right? So homo same, right? Ousia. It's going to be substance. You can say divinity, whatever the case may be.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying homoousios means divinity. There's also a few more reasons why Tim and I would probably opt to say divinity, and it's because of rhetorical concerns at the end of the day at this point, and it'd be probably more precise anyway with the fact that our metaphysics include trope ontology and stuff like that, but we're not talking about that type of metaphysics today. So that hopefully that answers your question. Let's see. Sorry if this is obvious, but is the Father still considered his own person here? Yes. So when we say there is one God the Father, that is still a person. What we're doing there is we're saying the name or the title that is given to the Father is the one God, the one true God, stuff like that. Okay. But that is we're saying that the Father is God in the nominal sense there, right? As in that is his name. That's what nominal means. And then when we're saying there are two relationally distinct divine persons, those are also persons just like the Father, who are the Son and Spirit. And they are, again, of the same substance or of the same divinity with the one God. And the way the word one God is being used there again is the name or the title, the Father. So the Father, Son, and Spirit all share the same divinity as the Father or with each other, but the Father is the one God in the nominal sense. Tim, anything you want to say there? Or correct me on?
On which part?
Anything. I was just explaining that the Father is God in the nominal sense, but that's what the one God means there.
Yeah. So the only thing I would say, and this is actually good because it actually came up on yesterday's stream, right? Kind of people jumping to conclusions about God being identical to essence view.
Oh, yeah,
is something that we don't actually want to think about here. So when we say God, right, think about that like being a name or a title that you would have, right?
Yes.
And so there are three divine persons, Father, Son, and Spirit, but you can actually properly refer to the Father as God. Now, we're not using God in this way as a label for an essence. We're using it as a title, as a name for a specific person. So when we say God here, what we mean by nominally is just what we mean by in name only. So the Father in name only is God. And then this is why I like to say same divinity, because I don't like to equivocate God in terms of God nature and God name. I think it's just very clear cut if you say there's God in the nominal sense, and then there's divinity. And that's very easy to see what I'm saying. When I say divinity, obviously I'm speaking qualitatively. But when I say God, I'm speaking nominally, right? So they're all of the same divinity, but the Father, his proper name or title, whatever you want to say, is going to be God. Just want to make that clear for everyone.
Yes. No, that's a very good qualification. The other thing I would just add into is like one of the things that I try to do too to help people unpack this, and because language is weird, it can be confusing. Another thing that you might be helpful for you guys too is instead of just equivocating on the word God, like we have used to for all this time, like I might just make a distinction between the divine essence, right? The divinity essence, whatever you want to say, and divine persons, right? And so there are 3 divine persons, right? And there's one divine essence, but the title, one God, true God, applies to the Father. That's another way of thinking about this. But it's a title. The word God there is not the same thing. The word there is a title, not a predication of the divine essence. That's not to say that also does not mean that I'm not predicating the divine essence. I can hear the Muslims. I can hear the Muslims in the back of my head. Okay, so this is really important, okay, because this is kind of like the model. We're not even doing metaphysics right here at the end of the day, you guys, okay? Mind you, we're just all we're doing is we're saying something like this because this makes sense of the overwhelming majority of the objections you will get when it comes to the Trinity and when it comes to Jesus being God, and it deals with everything, like almost everything that Dan McClellan says, as you guys saw in the debate or discussion they had, right? Tim, you have anything else you want to add, or?
No, we can keep going.
Okay, hold on, let me just look through, make sure people are chill. Maybe, yeah. Okay, maybe explain person. We might be taking things for granted there. All we mean by person is a robust first-person experience. Typically, when people think of person, they think of like Than, but they're in their head, they're thinking Than and the mental powers and the body and all this other stuff. But Than is a robust first-person perspective that subsists in this human nature, right? Tim is a different person that subsists in a different robust first-person perspective that subsists in his human nature, right? And in that human nature, there are cognitive, mental faculties and physical faculties. We can move, and then we have a mind that comes with our nature. You get the point. And so there are 3 robust first-person perspectives that share the divinity, and in that divinity, there's one mind, yada, yada, yada. You guys should get the point there. If you guys want more of the metaphysics there, too, we have a stream that we did with Sijuwade, kind of going over that a little bit more, too. Let's see, just make sure anybody else doesn't have anymore. I don't understand what this name thing is metaphysically. Like, a name can't be a metaphysical entity, can it? Or is the name thing just another way of referring to divine attributes? No. There's nothing metaphysical happening here. We're all, because again, we're still predicating divinity to the Father, right? All we're saying is there's also a nominal sense, right, in which we call the Father the one God.
Yeah, and the reason for this is very simple. It's how the New Testament differentiates the persons.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and this will make sense. Yeah. This will make sense when we get into the New Testament data. But just really quickly, like, you'll hear Dan talk about how there's a distinction between o theos, the one true God, and then how the New Testament uses the word theos without the definite article, which we'll get into. And Dan uses this as an argument to go against the Trinity. But on this model, right, where the one true God in the nominal sense is the Father, then when we see places in the New Testament that it calls the Father the one true God, but Jesus is God, then that is just expected if this model is true. Does that make sense? Anything you want to add on that, Tim?
Yeah. Yeah, because the idea here, right? So like imagine when a Muslim runs against you, like how many gods died on the cross, right? Well, the way in which we understand God is that's a nominal term. That's going to be the difference here. You guys are probably very used to apologists and theologians using God as a divinity term. But in this model, God is used as a nominal term. So if a Muslim asks you how many gods died on the cross, saying none is not a false thing to say, because that's identical to just saying the Father didn't die on the cross, because God is identified as the Father. John 1:1, John 3:16, for example. 1 Corinthians 8:6. I always bring up those three verses. John 1:1, John 3:16, 1 Corinthians 8:6. Right? But there are different ways of identifying the Son and the Spirit. The nominal use of God is going to be in continuity and lockstep with the earlier monarchia, which is going to be the true and original understanding of the ancient sense of monotheism. Right? So that's what that ends up being. So in a sense, you could say that God is also functioning as a term for the monarchia to pick out the monarchia. Yes. So that's what I would say.
All right, let's see. Yo, can you hold to the Filioque and Conciliar Trinitarianism, Tim?
I would say that would be difficult, simply because the Conciliar Trinitarianism in its fullness identifies one source of the persons, not two sources, as the Filioque would have you be committed to. Now, I still struggle to see why some people want to hold to the Filioque so hard, right? So you're going to have to do your own trade-off analysis, right? Remember, the original Nicene Creed had no Filioque formulation. And when actually Pope Leo and the Patriarch of Constantinople came together for the anniversary of the Nicene Creed, and they read it together at the same time, they read the version without the Filioque in it, which kind of tells you a lot of things. So if this is kind of a trade-off analysis, like if your criteria for whether you want to hold to, I'm kind of reading between the lines here, but if your criteria for wanting to hold to Conciliar Trinitarianism is that Filioque is that hill you want to die on, well, then that's going to be something that you're going to have to, personally figure out, how much value you're putting on that. But I would say it's a difficult one to do. But maybe you might be the unique person that ended up doing some interesting work here. And hey, if that's your project, go ahead. Send us your thesis when you're done. Your model of how you make it work. Right? I'm neither here nor there with it. I'm just giving you the terms and the conditions of how you might want to think about that.
All right, let's see what else. I got a question about the model, but not about the debate. If it's quick, go ahead, because we still haven't even gotten into the discussion. I'm just trying to make sure people are good with some of the initial things that we should understand before we get into this, because if you have this framing in mind, it's going to make sense of a lot of the stuff we're going to cover later. Tim, while I'm pulling something up, you want to answer this question quick?
What's the distinction between first-person perspective and a center of consciousness? So first-person perspective is going to be drawing from a particular philosophical tradition. I forget the person's name, the philosopher that formulated it that way. But a center of consciousness language, I think center of consciousness language is going to be found in the Latin social traditions. I think someone like someone like Leftow uses that language. I think someone like Craig uses that language, William Lane Craig. The idea to refer to centers of consciousness. The idea of a robust first person perspective is that you have and you have a subject that's able to conceive of, I think the way that Sijuwade puts
of
it
an
is,
I, of a self.
yeah, that's able to actually have a self-concept. There you go. Thank you. It's a subject that's able to be aware of a self-concept, or able to have a self-concept. They're able to be aware of that they exist, or aware of their immediate environment, let's say. So you have a few ways you could put it. A subject, a first person perspective,
Sijuwade
a
defines
robust
it
kind.
in the paper. Actually, I can just
Yeah,
pull that
he
up.
does.
Let me find it. Share this tab instead. Here we go. An entity X is a person if and only if X possesses a robust first-person perspective defined as the capacity for conceiving of oneself as oneself in the first person.
Perfect. Yep.
So
So self-concept.
Oh, sorry, I didn't share that. My screen. Here you go. So hopefully that's helpful to you guys. A few more good questions about all this stuff before we go into this. So somebody is okay. So this is a good clarifying question. We actually would say that the Trinity is like if you want,
know the way of putting it.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so we would say that the Trinity. We would say that the Trinity is not a reified entity.
Wait, you're gonna have to unpack that because
I'm going to.
Okay.
I got you, bro. Don't worry, man. These ain't the old days. So the so the idea here for Latin and
I hear
socials.
footsteps. I'll be right back, Tim.
You good, bro? I got it. The idea for Latin and socials, right, is that the Trinity, you have Trinity equals sign God. So the Trinity is identical to God. And essentially, right, the Trinity is God. So they're taking the term for the Godhead, Father, Son, and Spirit, and then they're reifying it in the sense of realityfying it, bringing it into reality. So they go from a mere description of the three persons in unity to saying that is a thing in reality, this thing called the Trinity. We would deny on the conciliar model that we are reifying the Trinity as an entity, but rather the Trinity functions purely as a description or as a label for the relationship between the Father, Son, and Spirit. So that's what we would say there. So when we talk about Trinity, we're not referring to God, because remember, on the conciliar model, God is the Father, right? God is the Father. So the Father is only God, because remember, God is functioning as a title. It's functioning as a name. But they're all equally divine. They all are of the same divinity. So you're not losing anything out by not affirming that the Trinity equals God, by saying that God equals the Father. You just include the rest of that formulation. And then you have two relationally distinct persons. You can say it another way. You can say personally distinct, right? You can say the Son and Spirit are personally distinct from the Father, and at the same time are of the same divinity. A really cool word you can use there is co-relative with the Father. So that's how I would do that. I don't have any controls as far as bringing up or not bringing up any questions. So that one's just going to have to stick there with hands up there. Let's see if I can look at them manually. Oh, he's back. Cool.
Sorry, my wife is gone. My wife is gone, and the kids are doing kid stuff. You know how it goes, guys. All right, let's. I didn't even hear what you said, but I'm assuming it's just good.
Very well.
I feel like we just answered this question, did we not? Was this it?
Yeah, we just did. That would be the yeah.
Okay, another good question, real quick. Does robust first-person perspective entail consciousness for each person?
See, this is my issue with the framing of a question like this is Like, what does it mean? I genuinely, I could try to read between the lines as to what this particular individual means by entail consciousness for each person, right? Because then, are they doing the whole, are they taking a very specific view?
The
of
three
philosophy
centers of
mind in
consciousness
terms of
thing.
3 centers of consciousness, 3 minds, et cetera, and so forth. They must share one mind. What do they mean by mind? Is it a faculty, rather a set of powers, or something like that? It's contingent upon a nature. Now, they would obviously be mental, right? They would have a robust form of mentality. I think that's obvious enough, right? But what that means for each person, that's very interesting, because on the conciliar view, right, there's only one will.
Yeah, there's one mind.
Yep. And that's going to be the Father's.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is where the backdoor kind of entrance into subordinationism that people think is really problematic starts to open itself up. Now, there are many ways to address that do the job. But I would say that as far as directions for where this goes, right, there's one will, it's the Father's will, right? There's no sense in which the persons are. I think on some social views, the idea is that the Father, Son, and Spirit all have their own wills, but the Son and Spirit happen to do the Father's will.
All right, there's so many good questions here, man. But we're almost 50 minutes in, so I feel like we need to get into the video at this point, guys. But we'll come back for more questions as they come up. So let me pull this up, and then the first timestamp we covered yesterday was like around 39-minute mark. So,
Public scholar.
Yes.
The beginning of their discussion is at the 20-minute mark. I don't know if you had anything specific, but
Did you?
it's neither here nor there for me.
What did they talk about
I
in the
think
beginning?
that in the beginning, Josh straight up tells him that he's wrong and why he thinks he's wrong.
Oh, let's
like,
just watch that
just
for.
right
Let's
out
just
the
watch
gate.
that because it's funny.
Yeah, it is.
Because he's just like, that is just
wrong.
false. So we can just do that in the beginning here.
So Josh, I don't know actually. I reached out to you back in February when I first saw that short, and all I was aware of is that you had some reservations about that short. I don't even know what those reservations are. So over to you, Josh. What were your first reactions to that short that we saw?
Yeah. Okay. Now, this is scholarly dialogue, so please don't take it in a way that I'm sort of dunking negatively. I just believe that it was completely wrong, what was stated factually and given the data. Can I just ask you, Glenn, is it possible that there can be openness with dialogue between Dan and myself, so I can ask him some questions?
Pause it.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
pause it.
don't feel like you have to go through me. Absolutely.
Wait,
Yeah.
then pause it.
So, yeah, the first thing, Dan, is that I just want, because we're working with a term that we haven't really defined. So when you say the Trinity, what do you mean by that? So if someone was to ask you, what is a doctrine of the Trinity that can be stated in a sentence that you said wasn't existing prior to origin and it was sort of in piecemeal in Irenaeus, Ignatius? What is that as you understand it?
Well, I think I was addressing the idea of the Nicene concept, but fundamentally, it seems to me that the Trinity is the idea that the single God exists.
What? What?
Oh my gosh, dude! How did you do that?
Do what?
You straight up ignored me for like 2 minutes straight, bro.
Oh, Mike was.
I've been
messaging
calling
me
your
Mike was messaging me
name
about something. Sorry.
to pause the video. Ever look at the comments? Look at the comments.
Guys, Mike was
He
yelling
said
at me
you-
about something. I'm
They
sorry.
said you egoed me, bro. That is crazy. This is what Dan does. I mean, honestly.
I mean, that it's pretty accurate. When like we'll be having private conversations a lot sometimes, and I'll just be like, "What'd you say?"
Okay, so you missed it. It was comedic timing. It's over. It was gone. I wanted you to see it. but you also probably weren't paying attention either.
Well, what do you want to say? I'm listening.
Dude, so in the beginning, Josh said to Glenn, he was like, "Hey Glenn, if it's okay with you, can Dan and I have open, is it okay if we have open dialogue?" And it's like, it sounds like it's his way of saying, can I talk to Dan in a direct way? Can I give my real thoughts here? It was just a perfect way to open it up, because he's just gonna like absolutely tell him he's wrong. That's all I wanted you to see. It was just perfect timing. That was
fair enough.
You can play it.
Somebody said gotta be racist. I mean, so what's our next timestamp? Tim's my boy, dude. One sec. Mike is yelling at me because Jake Brecantella took a screenshot. Here, I'll just do this real quick.
What did he do this time?
Gosh, you'll see. How do I click on this and then not have my, oh gosh, whatever, I'll just do this quick. I'll just I'll reach out to Jake.
Okay, let's see. I gotta adjust
switch. Boop. Beep. Boop. Beep.
I gotta advertise the stream on
this
IG.
So you took a screenshot of our post for my 2 Powers video.
What did you say?
My upcoming book has a section refuting this nonsense. Since Stan doesn't do debates, I said I turned down a debate with him on the Trinity because I'm not focused on like metaphysics or the Trinity stuff. I'm doing miracles.
He said you don't do no debate. He said you were.
Yeah. Are there any Christians who support his claims willing to debate this? Not interested in randoms.
Dang, bro. That is running.
No, I'm just letting him know he can come onto our channel and talk to me.
Oh, Lamb, you're hilarious, bro.
Sorry, that's what I'm dealing with right now, guys. Just so you know, real quickly. I'm letting him know.
Sam doesn't debate.
I don't like debates, actually, to be honest with you. Like if he wants to just come on and have a discussion, I'm fine with that. But I'm not gonna do some Dawa chest thumping back and forth with him, you know. Which I don't think Jake would expect that out of me anyway. He knows that I don't do that. But oh yeah, I just told him. I told Mike to tell him that he can just come on the channel and we can talk about it. What's our next timestamp?
You would know.
It is. Where is it? Oh, I lost everything because Mike messaging me. 39 minutes.
Mike just threw a whole wrench in this stream.
Hey, bro, you're calling me out like that? Yeah, I'm just gonna tell you, come on the channel and talk. All right.
Street, and so there's a distinction, and most Christians just happily kind of live with that. What would you say to that? I think that is precisely what I'm addressing. My video is, you know, as a public scholar, I'm trying to make content that speaks to the layperson on the street, and so every pod.
I want to stop there really quickly because I think that's actually this is really important. Okay, so I understand what Dan is saying there, right, Tim? Like he addresses the layperson. What are you doing? Are you taking a phone call? What are you? Okay.
We're good. I had to just do that.
You're good. So Dan is saying, yeah, I address the layperson on the street, but the problem is, okay, he doesn't just do that, like, because the random layperson on the street is not the only person he responds to on the internet. he's also responding to people that are not random lay people. They're people that are citing scholars at minimum. So lay people that might be citing scholars, right? And so you're in effect still responding to scholars. And I think that's just very important.
Cass, I start off by saying we try to increase public access to the academic study of the Bible and religion and combat the spread of misinformation about the same. So I am addressing the lay person and trying to address the way that they have been taught about or think about or talk about the Trinity. But fundamentally, what I'm trying to get back to is that this tension between unity and distinction is one of the main catalysts for the debates, the need for councils, the development of these frameworks. I think that is the main issue that I was getting at, and I think that's where an awful lot of lay folks are going to punt and just and speaking in American football terms, and I think that's the tension, the algebra problem, so to speak, that I was addressing is how do we understand their unity and simultaneously their distinction. And that's where I think if we go back to the Bible, we're going to get very different perspectives from different authors that I would say are closer to, Josh, the framework that you're describing than to the traditionally understood framework of the Trinity, but I think not quite the same. I don't think that the author of the Gospel of John or Paul or the author of the Gospel of Mark or the author of Daniel or any of the other First Enoch, any of the Second Temple Jewish texts, I don't think those are going to fit into that framework quite the same way. But Josh, would you say that you agreed or disagreed with the idea that tension between unity and distinction is one of the main catalysts for the Trinitarian debates and the need for councils and things like that?
I would say it's a tension, but it wasn't the need for councils. So I disagree with the conclusion. It's not entailed. So it's a non sequitur. I don't believe that's the reason why we have the councils.
Hey, pause it real fast. I just love
doing the nervous, like
he's like, yeah, it's so bad because he straight up told Dan that's not even the point, and on top of that, he said it's a non sequitur. Like, listen, I feel like at this point, Dan, if you and I make fallacious arguments, it's something happened to us. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like something would have to happen to us to even accidentally formulate a fallacious argument. Like it's just funny how Josh is like he's like his whole premise it's just a non-sequitur. Like that's so impressively like not good. You know what I'm saying? And he's just like scratching it out. He's just like, yeah, so you basically kind of suck.
Yeah, but he's being nice. He's being nice about it and all that stuff.
Yeah,
so
he is.
It's chill. I'm trying to find when.
But I believe there was a way in which people were trying to conceptualize the relationship of the Son to the Father, who is the one God. In a sense that does not ontologically support.
Okay, yeah. So this is where, guys, the stuff we went over the beginning in the stream, talking about the one God, the Father, that stuff. This is where Sijuwade's explicating the exact same thing.
Coordinate him. But can I just ask you a few questions, because I know we don't have super long.
Yeah.
So you said that the Gospel of John doesn't have sort of this, or it doesn't fit perfectly into this framework that I'm sort of expressing, if I'm correct. So how do you interpret just one verse, and one of the most famous verses, the prologue of John? So John 1:1, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. How do you interpret it?
Well, I start from the observation that I think is probably a consensus view among scholars today, that the anarthrous pre-verbal use of theos in this predication indicates a qualitative sense. Now, I would argue that this is probably reflecting the logos theology that the author is, in some sense, adopting from Philo. And Philo talks about how the article is included when it's referring to the one who is truly God, and it is omitted when it is talking about those who are improperly so called. And he talks about, I think it's Genesis 31:13, where God appears to Jacob and says, I am the God who appeared to you in the place of God. And Philo goes, well, that's odd. Why doesn't he say in my place? Is there another God? And then goes on to say, this is a reference to his chief word, or logos. And then in his commentary or questions and answers on Genesis, the logos is the second God. And so I think John is picking up. I have a paper I'm going to be presenting in Rome next month, where I will talk about a hybrid logos/image Christology in the Gospel of John. And so I think,
before I even read that paper, I'm probably going to end up agreeing with it. Aside from any inferences he draws that Jesus is not God in like the same divinity sense as the Father.
Yep.
And what I just said there might make people a little confused, and I am being intentionally opaque there to see what you guys say, so that way we know what we have to unpack. Reverse psychology.
Bro.
Dude, it is late. I'm
gonna
tired.
get Matt. I'm gonna get Matt to clip that part, like specifically. Gift that.
Yeah. Well, let's do some super chats, because I want you guys to think about that for a moment, and then I want to see what you guys are saying in the chat in response to what I just said while I do some super chats. Competing with David Wood, I see, brave man. I didn't know he was streaming, but here's the thing: the people watching David Wood stream, they're people that want. I don't even know what they're covering, to be honest with you. So I don't even know.
We just don't compete. I disagree with the premise. The proposition.
Briefly looked into relative identity versus aspects. It sounds like RI, unless it's a very strict sense. It's mostly just a semantic formulation.
I got you. I got you. Let me share.
Hold on, there's more than one. That Trinity. Okay, wait, hold on. Formulation of the Trinity to show that the Trinity is logical, while aspects is an actual metaphysical story, and RI doesn't force you to reject an absolute identity if we take a soft form. Okay, while you're pulling up whatever you want to pull up, Tim, just really quickly, because Tim and I literally talked about this. I'm sympathetic to the first impression that it looks like relative identity, but it's not. And I think what's happening here is that it's the mistake that's being made is found in your second super chat, where you say that Trinity is logical while aspects is an actual metaphysical story. So in your mind, relative identity handles the first order logic side of things, but doesn't touch the metaphysical side of things. And aspects touch the metaphysical side of things, but don't touch the first order logic side of things. And I'm assuming what Tim's about to show you is going to be what I'm about to tell you, which is that's wrong. Relative identity takes care of first order logic stuff, but doesn't bleed into the metaphysical side, while aspects start in the metaphysical side and bleed into the logical side, if you want to word it that way. And we'll see what do you got.
Great way to put it. Great way to put it. Yeah. So you pull this up. Very simple. So Donald Baxter has a paper on aspecting Leibniz's law, right? And remember, there's Leibniz's law and there's the contrapositive. Remember, it's the indiscernibility of identicals, and it's contrapositive, the identity of indiscernibles. If you want to formulate Leibniz's law in a analytic form, in a formalized form, this is what it looked like. And in English, I have the translation here for you. For any individuals x and y, if x is numerically identical with y, then for any individuals z in property x is identical with z insofar as x, if and only if y is identical with z insofar as x. And that insofar as clause is what we use when we are referring to aspects. And so the idea here is that Baxter keeps absolute numerical identity or absolute identity or strict identity for strict counting, but then denies the contrapositive, the idea that identical aspects must also be qualitatively indiscernible. That's the only part that's changing here. Because remember, aspects are numerically identical to their bearer, and at the same time qualitatively distinct from one another. And this is exactly how you formulate that. So there's a complete logical formulation. There's a complete paper on this. So he's already done the work for it. It's just very much unknown. So the only thing that we're doing differently is we're saying that because of this formalism, the contrapositive, or the second part of Leibniz's law, doesn't actually get triggered, as Than would say. And then through the use of a many sorted logic, you get something like this. So you don't have to do anything. You're not changing anything to the formalism of absolute identity. You're just denying this one part, that numerically identical aspects, because according to this, right, if you have aspect X, aspect Y, they're going to be identical to one another. But you don't have to be committed to the idea that they're also qualitatively indiscernible. You can say X and Y are identical to one another as aspects, but at the same time qualitatively distinct from one another. And this goes hand in glove with the Trinity. You can already see how the logic would apply. The metaphysical story, like Than already talked about, is going to happen when you cash out, oh, okay, well then how are the persons then aspects? That's going to be the metaphysical story part. But for the logical coherence part, this is all you need right here. Than, is there anything you want to add to that?
The only thing I'm going to add is I already know that there are going to be people that are looking at this and they're like, what the heck am I looking at? Do not worry. This is just answering a super chat. Because somebody super chatted something, and I'm assuming that they're going to know what we're talking about here. For anybody that wants to know this stuff that we're talking about here a little bit more in depth and actually gain some competency in this, I guess this is a good time to just plug really quickly that, Tim, why don't you, for people that don't know yet, why don't you tell people what's going on with worldview mastery and inspiring philosophy really quickly?
Yeah, you want to go ahead and get us back to normal presentation? There you go.
I like the way that looked.
All right, guys. So
I'm just pulling up the page while you talk.
So it's official. I am number 3 on the Inspiring Philosophy team. I am officially a part of the team, and we have converted all of my coaching work, all of Worldview Mastery, into Inspiring Philosophy Academy. So if you were following me before as Worldview Mastery, it's now Inspiring Philosophy Academy on all socials. And if you were already familiar with the school and the academy that I was running, it's now Inspiring Philosophy Academy officially. I'm being put in charge of pretty much running that. So they thought that I was useful enough and valuable enough to build out and help them build out the courses. The courses aspect and the academic education aspect of Inspiring Philosophy, and our goals are big. We want this to be the online university. If you guys are familiar with like Jordan Peterson, like Peterson Academy or Peterson University Online, like imagine that, but for apologetics. And that's exactly what we're doing right now. So they brought me on to be a part of this. And that's what we're currently working on. And so Than, if you want to go ahead and show them, where
so if you guys go to our Inspiring Philosophy website, now if you go to resources, go to Apologetics training, and it's going to take you to the Inspiring Philosophy Academy tab, where you can join. And so Tim is going to be in charge of all of the courses, all this really fun stuff. And on top of that, Tim and I will be. We're still haven't discussed how much of the teaching.
We're trying to get Mike in, man. We're trying to get Mike.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, we'll see what happens with Mike. From basically, now that we're adding this level to things. By the way, like with Tim, it's pretty clear what's going to happen. With Mike, it's pretty clear what's going to happen. With me, it's like I'm a jack of all trades, so it's like, where do we put Than? And that's what we're trying to figure out, what the workflow is going to look like. But minimally, it's going to look really good. You guys are going to get so much out of this. And I still show up. I'm still active in the community here. I'm active in the group calls that we have, all that fun stuff. So I highly recommend you guys do that, especially if you want, like I said, like if you want to be able to talk about this kind of stuff and actually like have strong competency in this, I highly recommend joining. Okay. Let's go back to the...
And I just want to say for everyone here that's also not inside the community, tomorrow we're doing a Q&A session. Every Saturday we have Q&A. Every Wednesday we do objection handling and debate practice and prep, and they're each 2 hours long. So just letting you guys know, you could instantly jump in on the action as soon as tomorrow.
Nice. All right.
That
Where are we?
There is a distinction between hotheos and between theos and arthrously.
Okay, there we go. Okay, well, cool. We can already talk about that then. Now it's like perfect timing. Okay, everybody in the chat. Does everybody know what Dan just said? Ortheos and theos anarthrously. Does everybody know what's going on there? Just put a 1 in the chat if you know what's happening there, and if you don't, say poop. I want to see a 1 in the chat if you know what's happening. I want to see
the poop apologist.
The poop dilemma. The poop dilemma. Everybody's saying poop. Okay, totally fine. Totally fine. That's why we're asking.
Stan just wants to nerd out here, so I'm gonna let him do his thing.
What do you mean I would just want to nerd out?
Dude, you like this part, bro.
Well, no, I mean, it's just important to know. Yeah.
We just like saying the word anarthrous because
no, I don't.
It's fun.
I actually think it's really stupid. Like, why can't you just say without the definite article or something like that? You already have to use the buzzwords.
A different account of anarthrous predication. ask a girl what her account of
hey, next time you guys go up and try to like pick up a chick, you just go, hey girl, should I call you the girl or do I use anarthrous girl? Fastest way you'll get a date.
That's so stupid.
And then you hit her with, what's the prior probability that I get to take you home?
Nah, we ain't doing that. We ain't doing that.
Oh man.
Oh, you wouldn't know, dude. Hey, you can get away with some stuff though.
I get away with it. I get away with it.
It's too much.
Okay. Let me put
what is this? Okay, there we go. I was like, what bro just
It's on my ultra wide right now. Sorry. Okay.
All right, RJ, I see you, bro. Yeah, let us know. Let us know if this is the new method. He said, I'm gonna try that. I'll keep you updated. He's someone in the community. RJ,
bro.
I trained him.
This is, you guys thought this this is Academy for Philosophy and like Apologetics. No, also the Academy of Dating. Okay.
We're gonna have a dating course.
All right. You probably still can't see this. Okay. In archi in o logos ke o logos in pros tonteon. Okay. So let's start here with John 1:1. You see this phrase here. So, and the word was God. And the Greek here is ke o logos in theos. Okay. When Dan is talking about ortheos, okay, this is that word o, or here. Notice here, there's different usages of the word God here. Okay, so theos, right, with no definite article. I just noticed. Okay, so when I'm sharing my screen, there's another thing that pops up when I highlight, but it's not showing it on here. It looks like. So it's not actually getting in the way. Yeah. So you guys can actually. Oh no, it's a good thing because there's something in my way, so I can't see something, but it's not in your way, so it's okay. So what Dan is pointing to here, though, you guys, is in the Greek, you have an unqualified theos. This is the word for God. Okay. But now look at that. But look, when it's just using the word theos, unqualified, what is it talking about? The word / the logos. Okay. Are we good there so far, guys? Let me know. Put 1 in the chat. This is gonna be excruciating, maybe, but we're gonna go through this slowly. So put a 1 in the chat if this first point makes sense. If this one puzzle piece makes sense. I see 1 1. I need a 1 plus 1 plus 1 equals 1. Okay, cool. We're good. So now when John 1:1, when he's speaking of the Logos, there's no definite article, there's nothing here. But watch this. Αυτός in αρχή pros τον Θεόν πάντα. So he was in the beginning with, speaking of the Logos, right? So the Logos was in the beginning with who? Τον Theon, or ο Theos. Sorry, I forgot you guys can see this and that thing doesn't pop up. Okay, now notice the difference here. This is το Theon, or ο Theos. There's a definite article, the one, the God, right? And so what Dan is pointing out here is that this is a title for someone, and this is a qualitative use of the word God. Are we good there so far? Anything you want to add in, Tim?
Yeah, I think I was really disappointed about how many people were pushing back on just the Greek itself with our most up-to-date understanding of the Greek.
Because, sorry, Tim, I'm excited. Exactly, Jizya, whatever your name is. This is exactly Josh's model. Exactly. You get it.
That's RJ, by the way.
I don't know. Oh, I don't know who that is. Am I supposed to know who RJ is?
Dope guy, lives where close to me. I trained him.
Oh, okay.
He's been awesome. Okay. He's in the community. He's a regular, etc. and so forth.
Yeah. Great. Okay. Great. A Coco Loco also says literally. Yeah. Josh made this point in the debate. Exactly. Yes. Okay. Keep going, Tim. I'm just excited because it's clicking for people.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the big part, right? Which is actually further bolsters what I was about to say, which is the amount of people who I saw disagreeing when Dan made a video saying this exact thing, Christians, because they were reading too much into it. They were like, they thought that what Dan was essentially trying to do is make Jesus lesser than the Father, is like what they think Dan's doing. But all he did was he just articulated what we just articulated. And then when I made a video about it, and I said, yeah, Dan's not wrong about how to actually understand and exegete John 1:1, I had people telling me that I was wrong. That were Christians. I was like, there's no possible way you can read this any other way. I mean, you can read it some other ways, but there's no, like, the right way is obviously this way.
Yeah.
I mean, Dan, you're showing us right here where it lacks the definite, it omits the definite article. It just does. So in what sense is it talking about God? Qualitatively, right? Yep. Now, don't make the mistake of jumping to, oh, that must mean then he's lesser divinity. Not at all. That cannot be ascertained from John 1:1 at all. No means, dude, to do that.
Yes. So yes, and that's the bad inference that Dan McClellan makes when he's using this. By the way, okay. Yep. Dan makes the bad this is the inference Dan makes. Okay, well, one of the inferences Dan makes. Right? He goes, okay, hold on. It's actually not even a bad inference, because he's technically correct. It's just he's only partially correct. I think this is a better way of putting it, right? He's technically correct that because there's a distinction between o theos and the anarthrous theos, right? And because there's a distinction in how the title is being applied versus the qualitative application of the word, that the word and the one true God are distinct. He is correct in that inference. But the inference that he takes, the misstep that he makes, right, is the idea that the what John 1:1 is trying to portray is that they are completely separate entities, right? That is the misstep. That is going where the data does not allow you to go, right? This is equally as intelligible on our model, and at least when I'm saying just this one verse in isolation, right? This is equally as intelligible on his model and our model. But then what you're going to find is that as more data comes along, it becomes less intelligible on a low Christology non-Trinitarian view, because you're going to keep reading. He was in the beginning with God, and then all things came into being through him, and without him, not one thing came into being, right? And you get the point. It keeps on going and going and going, right? So John 1, so at beginning of John's prologue is applying Yahweh only indexed things, patterns, stuff like that to the logos. Now, I would also argue that what's happening here is an intersection of a bunch of different trajectories and what's the word I'm looking for? What's a T? It's a T word, Tim. Why am I drawing a blank? It's getting late, so I'm getting tired already.
Oh, no. Give me more than that, bro.
Whatever, you get the point.
While you're trying to figure that out, I want to make a point.
Yeah, go ahead. Make
this
your
is a 10 point. Is you'll hear Josh say something very important. He'll say, this is evidence. John 1:1 is evidence for my view. Now, really hear what he's saying, because a big complaint I have for a lot of kind of modern day apologetics / polemics when it comes to high Christology arguments is that we often think very deductively about these things, that the proof texts are actually being deduced insofar as the conclusion is a high Christology. And I don't want you guys to think about it like that. When Josh says that John 1:1 is evidence in favor of his Conciliar Trinitarian model, we just mean the ordinary understanding of evidence, which is increases the support or degree of support for the position of Conciliar Trinitarianism. So if you think about it as increasing support or providing support for Conciliar Trinitarianism, right, rather than uniquely supporting Conciliar Trinitarianism, you can see how easy this is. And then we can actually construct a cumulative case, because we can say, okay, so we have this data point that provides an X amount of support for Conciliar Trinitarianism, and then we can keep going and see how that happens. And just think about it in terms of like, what predictions would Conciliar Trinitarianism make? Meaning, I always like to use this exercise with staunch Unitarians. I say, okay, if you were to be a Second Temple Jew and you wanted to articulate the conciliar model of the Trinity, how would the scriptures read? Like, go write it down for me. What I'm essentially doing is, what would you expect the text to read like if Conciliar Trinitarianism is true? Would we be shocked to read John 1:1? Or would we be just like, oh yeah, this is this is exactly what we would, this is unsurprising. Like, you would just have a very unsurprising, non-reactive kind of way of looking at it. And that's exactly what Josh is saying. It's like, this is so unsurprising if Conciliar Trinitarianism is true. So if you think about it in terms of degrees of support rather than deductive certainty, you start to really see how damning the case actually becomes. Dan, what do you think of that, bro?
No, that's good.
And we just have a new member that joined. Congrats to who just joined the community.
Let us know. Make yourself known in the chat so we can showcase you and make you embarrassed. Maybe Tim will sing happy birthday to you.
Wait, why would I sing happy birthday?
Because that's how it goes.
Yeah, it's true. That's facts. It's brute facts.
Okay. Well,
yep.
If everybody's satisfied with that brief overview with the Anatheris versus the Orthos thing, let me put this back up. in this time, I don't remember if in this timestamp he goes over
and that Jesus is is being called divine, is being called deity, is not being identified as the very God of Israel. And I think in John 10, when he appeals to Psalm 82.
Oh, okay, cool. Right away, we're going to be able to cover another thing,
Nice.
and this is important too. So let's listen what Dan has to say.
I think we have kind of a further fleshing out of this notion that humans can be gods. You have the anarthrous plural thei, quoting the Greek translation of Psalm 82, and that is in response to their accusation that he's committing blasphemy by saying he's one with the Father. And he says, wait a minute, your very own scriptures that you're not allowed to annul say that humans can be gods, the ones to whom the word of God came. And so I think there's, and this is why I think what John is, the author of the Gospel of John is doing, is much closer to the framework for which you're advocating, that there is a sense in which the Father is God in a distinct way from the way that Jesus is God. I would say that, and you see this anarthrous, arthrous distinction being drawn. I think Justin Martyr uses it without explicitly calling it out. Origen explicitly calls it out. Eusebius explicitly calls it out. So I think there's definitely a recognition that the way that Jesus' deity is distinct from the way that the God the Father is ho theos.
So what do you ask, Josh?
Yeah. So I don't see how that. I know you're big on data, so that data doesn't actually support then the position that I'm expressing, because I said there's one God the Father, and
yeah,
there are two relationally distinct divine persons.
Maybe we should pause here before he goes into that. Okay, so Dan said a lot there. I was just thinking we'd cover the Psalm 82 thing. But chat, you guys let me know. Again, we're doing this for you. We're doing this together. So interact in the chat. Psalm 82, we can go over that, how Dan is wrong there, and what's going on with Psalm 82. Because Tim, I told you my view over the phone just a little earlier today, even because we were talking about this. You think it's pretty based?
Oh yeah. Okay.
Wait, did we find out who became a member of the IPA thing?
No, I don't think so.
Hold on. Let me see. Hold on. Koopa's asking a decent question. Isn't Dan's point that them being the same being isn't the best historical critical reading, though? Okay. But Dan wants to say this, right? But the thing is, he can't unless he brings in other data to contextualize this data point with our background knowledge, right?
You see, I wouldn't even phrase it as his complaint is that the same being. What Dan usually says is that he's not the God of Israel. That's what Dan says. Now, if that's identical, equivalent to same being, but being, I mean, Dan's always complaining that even concepts like identity, such as like self-persistence or self-continuity, are things that we can't impose on the ancients. So I would even think that even him making an objection that they're not the same being would be kind of guilty of the same thing. So to avoid Dan being hypocritical here, I would say that minimally what Dan always claims is that the Son is not, the Logos is not being identified as the God of Israel. That's usually what he says.
Yeah. Let's see. Big John Steele, bro. This live is just dishonest apologists. Yeah, Psalm 82 is one of those data, and we're gonna very quickly see why he's wrong about that data point. In my opinion. Okay. On a serious note, I've heard it explained that Psalm 82 is Yahweh putting down the powers and principalities of this world at the moment when Christ defeated death. I need to know more about which and hopefully this doesn't come off the wrong way. I just don't actually know what you mean by this. So let's go over Psalm 82. Let me pull it up. Beep boop. Actually, let's do this. John, that's John 10:30 something, right? Oh my gosh, I can't control Zoom on this. It's so annoying. John 10:30, where are you? We can turn off the Greek for now. Maybe we can go into it. We'll see. Pull that up. Did you just?
Yeah, bro. This is
here we go. All right, back to logos. So here's John 10:30, and then what the heck? We'll just use the
wide ad monitor, bro.
This isn't the wide.
It just looks from afar on looking through the StreamYard.
Well, I don't like you, so
he loves me, y'all. Don't listen to him.
Wait, it's telling me what the heck? How did I do 80? How did I do 62? Okay. So, what is this big enough for you guys? Can you see this? Hopefully you can. Go ahead, get it out, Tim.
Dude, you're just making me laugh right now, bro. It's nothing specific, bro.
No, go ahead.
It's nothing specific.
No, what's so funny about is it big enough? Can you see it? What's so funny?
Dude, no. I didn't say that, bro. I didn't say that.
What's happening?
Lock in, buddy.
How did this jump from 240 to, my gosh, whatever. You guys are gonna have to deal with this, I guess. Okay, so let's start with a little bit of the context. So where are we? Wait, isn't this? How did it get to 1125, dude?
What are you talking about, bro?
Hold on, it just switched to a verse that I wasn't intending to be to. I was like, where's the red text? Okay, so here's the context. Jesus is rejected by the Jews, right? Festival dedication. Jews gathered around him. How long will you keep us in suspense? And they asked Jesus, if you are the Messiah, tell us plainly. Okay. Jesus answers, I have told you, and you do not believe. The works that I do in my Father's name testify to me, but you do not believe because you do not belong to my sheep. My sheep hear my voice, blah, blah, blah. Okay. I give them eternal life, and they will never perish. Okay, so pretty crazy claims there, right? And he says, what my Father has given to me is greater than all else, and no one can snatch it out of the Father's hand. The Father and I are one. Okay? This is what happens immediately prior to Jesus quoting Psalm 82, right? And the Jews respond to Jesus, how? The Jews took up stones to stone him. And Jesus says, what? I have shown you many good works from, dude, let me highlight stuff. From the Father, for which of these are you going to stone me? Okay. The Jews answered, it is not for a good work that we are going to stone you, but for blasphemy. Why? What is the blasphemy charge? Because you, though only a human being, are making yourself to be God. Wait, this is very important context for what McClellan is arguing, right? Because what we're about to read is basically what Dan's going to point to argue as a data point that Jesus is actually, on Dan's account, rejecting the divinity claim. Okay, so first what we're going to do is we're going to read through the text, and then we're going to look at look at this through the lens of what Dan might be saying. And then I'm going to show you that Jesus is actually doing 3 things in one fell swoop. Like, that's how good he is, by the way.
Yeah.
He's just a master rhetorician. Okay. So the Jews took up to stone him, blah, blah, blah. And then the Jews answered, "It is not for a good work that we are going to stone you, but you make yourself taught to be God." And so Jesus answers, "Is it not written in your law, I said you are gods?" That's him quoting Psalm 82:6. And then he says, "If those to whom the word of God came were called gods, and the scripture cannot be annulled, can you say that the one whom the Father has sanctified and sent into the world is blaspheming because I said I am God's son? If I am not doing the works of my Father, then do not believe me. But if I do them, even though you do not believe me, believe the works, so that you may know and understand that the Father is in me and I am in the Father."
Yeah.
Okay. So Dan's argument is what? In a popularized way, right? It could be understood like this. Okay, so the Jews are ready to stone Jesus because they think Jesus has just made himself out to be God. Okay?
Mhm.
It might be helpful to pull up the Greek here, to be honest with you.
Pull it up.
Let me this is too zoomed in. It's like hurting my eyes. Okay, so yeah. So you are making yourself out to be God. And then Jesus defends himself, right, by pointing to Psalm 82:6. And the basic idea for the popularized version is like, well, if Jesus is defending himself, he's denying the claim that he's making himself out to be God, is the general idea here, right? And so this is going to be evidence that Jesus is not claiming to be God. So goes the argument. Do you think it's a fair way to represent?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Anyway, anything you would qualify before we go into responding to this?
Yeah. So, one, this isn't like just an aside point. This is very integral, because this is one point amongst many that Dan is making that are like his escape hatches from Sijuwade's model. And essentially think about it like this. If you are able to counter all of Dan's escape hatches, you're just left with Sijuwade's model. So I just want everyone to I'm just making a point about locking in. Everyone should just lock in right now and wait and listen to how we're going to break this down.
All right. So give me one sec. Responding to Jake.
Hey. We need some music. Yeah. Yo, Than's locked in, but he's locked in on something else right now, bro.
No, I'm just responding really quickly. No, because look, if you don't respond to these guys right away, half the time they're gonna make public statements and be like, "Oh, he's running. He didn't respond in 30 seconds." I don't think Jake's gonna do that, but you get the point. Okay.
He responded 30 seconds.
Dude, you know I'm right.
Dude, it's actually facts. They're like, it's actually such facts. It's just so stupid, though, bro. Like,
okay. So, let's start off. I think the easier place to start is what Jesus is doing. Actually, let's get rid of the Greek for now. Otherwise, it's gonna be too much to go over in one thing. Let's just go simple English stuff first. Okay. So I mentioned there's 3 things that Jesus is doing here, guys. Okay. The first is a legal argument called a qual wahomer. Okay. Basically, it's a Jewish way of legal reasoning where you go from the lesser case to the greater case. Wait, I might have that.
Is it
backwards.
Qualva Homer?
Say what?
Is it Qualva Homer? Qualva Homer.
It's QAL.
Qual.
Yeah.
The Homer.
WAH. Wahome. HOMER.
Qualva Homer.
Yes. It's lesser to the greater. Okay. So here, I'll put it in the chat. Everybody in the chat say Qual Homer. Okay. Can I zoom without? Oh, okay, that's better. Whatever. Okay, so let's go back to this, okay? So before this all, right? My father is greater than me, blah, 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 the fire there, and I won. The Jews interpret this as Jesus claiming to be God, right? It's worth noting this word here. I might as well just highlight it here. I don't know if you can see this. No, you can't. Darn. The Greek word that's being used. Will it pop up? Darn. Okay. The Greek word that's being used here is the anathoros. This is in the Greek. This is the anathoros theos. It's not o theos. This is really important. Okay. He's not claiming to be the one true God, the one God, he's not claiming to be the Father here. Right? He's claiming to be divine, though. So this is consistent with what, Tim?
Our model.
Yeah, our model, exactly. Okay. Okay. So they are ready to stone him. They give him a legal charge, and they explain why they're giving him a legal charge. You're only a human being, and you're making yourself out to be divine. Okay. Jesus answers, and I'm going to break. This is going to be slow, but it's slow on purpose because we need to be slow. So Jesus' answer begins, is it not written in your law? What? So in response to a legal charge that was brought against them, what is Jesus doing? He's beginning by appealing to the law. Right? What should that tell you guys? Like, when I want to make a legal case for myself, to defend myself, am I going to appeal to the law? That makes sense. Yeah? Well, that's what Jesus is doing here. So one of the things that Jesus is doing is he is making for himself a legal case. Okay? And it's going to become more apparent as we go. Okay? So wait, hold on. This is the thing that I'm taking for granted here. Okay, this word for law. There's a phrase that you'll find in the New Testament. Maybe I can make a video on this, to be honest with you, one day. This is something I just realized I'm probably taking for granted. There's this phrase, the law and the prophets. Okay. The Torah in general is the law and the prophets. And so when you see appeals to the law, right, it's not just the books of Moses. It's not just Deuteronomy, right? You actually are going to look at the Pentateuch. You're going to look at all the books of the Hebrew Bible, and you're going to see this as the law. Really good scholar to read on this is the Pentateuch as narrative, John Sailhammer. For now, I'm not going to unpack all of that. You guys let me know if you want me to make a video on that. I think that actually might be really helpful for understanding the context of the New Testament and some of the key phrases that's happening there. Because I'm taking that for granted. I just had an epiphany there, and I'm just like processing that. You know those moments, Tim, when you're like, you know what? I'm assuming people know something. Yeah, this is very important. Okay, so if you guys want a video on that, I will make a video on that. Okay, but for now, just trust me, bro. Okay, I'm gonna do the appeal to trust me, bro fallacy. Okay, so Jesus starts to a legal charge. Is it not written in your law? And then immediately after, with the context that the law includes the Psalms, right? In this context, I said you are gods, appealing to Psalm 82:6. Okay, let me pause here. The importance here, if people are unfamiliar, is in the Old Testament, we have this thing called the Divine Council, okay? Deuteronomy 32 and Psalm 82 are big examples of this. Here is a general picture of this, and we can unpack this in a different stream or a different video if you guys want me to. But the basic idea is that the Old Testament talks of other Elohim. Elohim is the word for God. Now, that doesn't mean that there are multiple like Yahwehs in like this weird, like the Muslims will hear this and they're gonna like lose their mind. Oh, Dan thinks the Bible teaches multiple gods. No. Okay. There are other false gods of the nations that people have started worshiping, all this other stuff, right? And so there are other divine beings or spiritual beings, right? If you want to put it that way, that the entities that the scriptures acknowledge the existence of, right? Deuteronomy 32, Yahweh disinherits all the other nations, and the rebelling spiritual entities, if you want to put it that way, right? They get to inherit those nations, but Yahweh keeps what for himself? Israel. Psalm 82 is the same thing. It's connected to Deuteronomy 32, but the long story short is when you go to Psalm 82, right? What does it say? I say, you are God's children of the Most High, all of you, right? And then listen and pay attention very closely to the contrastive statement in verse 7. Nevertheless, even though, right, I'm inserting things in here, but like to make things explicit, right? I say you are God's children of the Most High, all of you, but nevertheless, you will die like immortals and fall like any prince. Okay? This is saying like, hey, yes, you are spiritual entities, Elohim, right? You are a good way of understanding the word Elohim is a place of residence term, right? Because also like things like the deceased Samuel are called an Elohim. So, but like clearly the deceased Samuel, when he's dead, right, and he's in the realm of the dead in the Hebrew Bible, he's not a divine being, right? That should tell you what this word Elohim is doing, right? So, despite the fact that these beings are Elohim, they're going to die like mortals because Yahweh is going to judge them. Okay? This is the context of Psalm 82. It's acknowledging the existence of other spiritual beings that would be described in some sort of a divine sense, but not in the same divine sense as the God of Israel, if that makes sense. Again, stuff I can unpack in a different video, but for today's purposes, we're just going to keep going. So starts, is not written in your law, legal precedent. You are God's, appeals to the scripture. And then Jesus says, if, so there's a conditional, right? If those to whom the word of God came were called gods, and, okay, so there's a conjunction. So first he says, if those to whom the word of God came were called gods. The interesting thing here, sorry if you're getting impatient, Tim, if I'm taking too long. So interesting thing here, word of God. This is the Logos. The same Logos that's in the beginning of the prologue of John, speaking about Jesus. Very important, okay? So if the Logos dotheon, right? If the word of God were called gods, and conjunction, the scripture cannot be annulled. Okay? So two-part thing he's pointing to here. There are things that are called gods in the Old Testament, and he is saying, if those to whom the word of the Lord, who is divine with the Father, right, the one true God, came to those things, and we called those things gods, and this idea that scripture cannot be broken, right? So you can't, like you, the Jews that are accusing me of this, cannot disagree with your own scriptures, right? Then he goes, he's making an inference, right? Can you say that the one whom the Father has sanctified and sent into the world is blaspheming because I said, I am God's son? Does this make sense to you guys? Jesus is making a really simple legal case in a really rapid fire way. Okay? All Jesus is doing is saying, hey, how can you call me blasphemous for saying I am God's son when your own scriptures say, hey, you are God's to the other divine beings.
It just goes hard. It just goes so hard, bro.
Right? This is just a quick one-liner legal defense he's giving himself, but he's doing more. Okay? Does this make sense, you guys? Put a one in the chat if it makes sense, or if you need me to unpack anything, like put a question, like to ask the question.
Looks good.
Cool.
Looks good. Good job, Dan.
Yeah, here's a really way to like put this in a logical structure. Okay. The charge is blasphemy. You being a man, make yourself out to be God. And then here's the precedent that Jesus points to. God himself called other beings Elohim in the scriptures. Okay. And then here's the inference. If it's not blasphemy there, how can it be blasphemy here? Especially given that I was sanctified and sent, i.e., like officially commissioned by the Father. The Jews who are accusing him of this cannot do that without breaking the scripture. Right? Mm-hmm. Hence why Jesus also says, again, and the scripture cannot be annulled. This is just a legal defense that Jesus is doing in this sense. Okay? Now, there's more that he's doing, though. Okay? Because remember, this all stems from what? These lines here. So, without denying or rescinding or qualifying himself, and notice, okay, he doesn't change anything that he said prior to, he doesn't correct or change anything that he said prior to the blasphemy charge. Okay? And also, the charge is you make yourself out to be divine. But he doesn't say, I am not divine. Right? What he says is, how can it be blasphemous to call myself divine when your own scriptures call other beings divine? That's what's happening. So there's no shape or form where there's no way that he's pushing aside the claim or this identification that people have made or inference that people have made based off of the claims that he's making. He's not correcting that. The only thing he is doing is giving himself a very rapid legal defense, right? So with that context in mind, he's doing other things. One is that he's claiming the membership of the divine realm, obviously, right? He's invoking this non-human divine speech about himself. And on top of that, he's claiming co-regency with the Father. Why? Because he's talking about these other divine council members, right? And instead of lowering his status to go below them, which would make some intuitive sense if you want to like starve off this blasphemy charge, right? But no, he doesn't do that. Because remember, he starts off with a contrastive statement from himself to the beings in Psalm 82. And then he ups the ante because he says, if these guys can be called Elohim and it's not blasphemy, then why on earth would it not be blasphemy for me, who has been specifically commissioned by the Father, who I am one with, right? How much more do I have the right, if Jesus is saying, to be called theos, right? Here's a way to think about this in a non-divine statement like this, right? Imagine, I don't know, what's something people really imagine somebody looks up like, Tim, how much anime do you want? Imagine Mike watched, okay, imagine Mike said he likes anime, and Tim was okay with this qualification somebody made about this, okay? So we all know Mike hates anime, by the way, you guys, okay? And Mike, somewhere off in the void, has said before he likes anime, and Tim knows this. And then suppose Tim doesn't know that I like anime, and he just finds out, and Tim goes, "What? You're lying. You don't like anime. You don't even know this XYZ show," or something like that, right? And then suppose I go, "Well, hold on. You are totally fine with Mike saying he likes anime, and the only thing he's watched is Dragon Ball Z. How much more do I have the right to like anime when I've watched Naruto, and I've watched Dragon Ball Z, and I've watched Baki, and I've watched Demon Slayer, and blah, blah, blah." You get the point, right? That's contrastive nature, that structure of reasoning is exactly what Jesus is doing here. I've been talking a while. So I'm going to pause here. Any questions, anything you want to add in, Tim?
No, I think that you really simplified exactly what he's saying, moving from the lesser to the greater form of argumentation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I think there was another way that I heard it put that can help the audience. I'm not going to spend time trying to look it up, but yeah, I think that analogy helps and everything. And so when we're looking at the legal defense here, right? Anything other than what Than just articulated in the immediate context, it's just Jesus making an argument going from the lesser to the greater, right? Anything that's trying to insert theses outside of that or in conjunction to that, that's red herring, irrelevant, not the point of the text. And so my only adage here would be, don't let people then take this conversation in strange ways. For right now, LDS apologists think that this is a proof text for the pre-existence doctrine of the LDS Church, which, when the context is in place, there's absolutely no way you could ascertain that. And then Dan's side of the argument also doesn't work as well. So keep it focused on the legal argument aspect, Jesus throwing it back in their cart and reasoning from the lesser to the greater. And then I don't know if you mentioned this, but I think that this point is really important, which is it puts them in a bind, because if he's responding to a legal charge with a legal defense, ultimately on the pain of denying their own scriptures is how they get out of this.
Yep.
So it essentially kind of even turns into its own reductio.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's a really good way of putting it too. It's a very good way of putting it. So,
yeah.
All right, how's everybody feeling? I'm tired, and
I am exhausted.
I don't know what else we really need to cover from this, because there's stuff about the fathers, and we didn't really dig into the Philo, like the Theos thing or anything like that.
Oh man, yeah, man, and the metonymy.
Yeah, we didn't get into the metonymy thing yet either. But we're at 2 hours. I'm tired. We can do more if people need more. You guys can leave comments to tell us what else you want us to cover in the future. We can maybe even make a video or something. Koopa says, so it seems like y'all think that Jesus is being accused of being divine, not God. Okay, remember, go back to the very beginning of the video, of the stream, and what we talked about. So we agree with Dan, with what the anatherus theos means, right? And what o theos means. O theos refers to the Father. And so remember, when you use the title God, right, it wouldn't make sense with our model. Like, in other words, if this passage or if this pericope was saying that Jesus is making himself out to be o theos. If that was the language, not just theos, if the language is, oh, you make yourself out to be o theos, and then the rest of the pericope is exactly the same, that would be evidence against our theory. Because then Jesus would not be denying to be the Father. But the fact that o theos is being used here, and o theos is referring to a title, right, of the Father, and Jesus is denying, and Jesus is not being accused of being o theos, of calling himself o theos, just being accused of being theos. This is actually congruent. It's expected with our theory. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's go over some super chats and we're going to close it out. And then you guys can just leave comments about anything else you want us to cover, because there's still stuff we didn't cover. But it's okay because we're going slow over some things so that way we can actually cover some stuff. Is it unfair for me to be frustrated with the change in tone between his TikToks and the conversation? He spent all that time glazing Sijuwade's model. No, I was frustrated about that too, but I was also happy that at least he was respectful to Sijuwade. It was also frustrating because Sijuwade said some of the exact same stuff that I've been shouting from the rooftops and Tim's been shouting from the rooftops for the longest time. But Dan wasn't going to hear it from us. So
no.
The filioque is a Latin grammatical thing. Ultimately, there have been a couple really good articles on it recently. I can look into that at some point if you want to send anything. But I'm confused. So if the Trinity isn't a real thing, then how are each person unified as one ontological entity, mind, depending on how mind is defined?
So I would push back. I would push back. When you say real thing, when we speak nominally versus, I guess you could say that if we're going to say real thing, like there's the literal meaning of the Trinity, like when we say that God is the Trinity and God exists, right? And that's literally true. Then what you're saying is that then there is this entity called the Trinity. But that formulation would have to read something like, for there is one God, the Trinity, and three divine persons, Father, Son, and Spirit, that are of the same divinity. That's how that would have to read. Ultimately, what we're saying is there's one God, the Father, and then two relationally distinct divine persons, Son and Spirit, that are of the same divinity as the Father. And the description we use to articulate the relationship is called the Trinity. Dan, am I missing something here, or what do you think?
I trusted you to answer the question. I was responding to Jake.
All good. I answered the question.
Brian Leftall's model over Sijuwade's.
Listen, bro, you're wrong, but thank you for the money, though.
I'm of the opinion that there's multiple ways to skin a cat. So
hey, he's cool though, because he said right after this comment when he left it that Dan he said the Dan sucks anyway. So he's like,
yeah, fair enough.
He redeemed himself. It's all good.
Is it me, or does Dan look like a sub puppy looking at Sijuwade? His demeanor is totally different in his videos. He looks like a student with Josh.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's not just you.
I think, yeah, I mean, like, I think he just recognized that Josh is a scholar. And I think that's what's happening, probably. Yeah. He's talking to a scholar. Yo, God bless y'all. I appreciate the work y'all doing. Once again, huge W with the 2 powers vid. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, man. There's so much more I wish I could have gone into with that video, but it was an hour long. Thank you for becoming a YouTube member. You are a Giga Chad. Canceled Grok to get back to school. So sick of AI. I am too, man. I am. There's somebody, dudes. There's somebody on the 2 powers video, and they didn't even bother watching the video. And it was very obvious that they didn't, because they cited James McGrath and his objections to the view, which I explicitly tackle in the video. And it was just a long AI slop post. It was so annoying.
Yikes.
I cannot stand AI. It's useful. I'm not saying it's not useful. Like, you can use it, but man, don't let it think for you, man. Come on. Should I go to seminary or just read more? It depends on what you want to do, man. Like, it really does. There's some places where it's like you need the seminary to do a work, to do the job that you want to do, and there's some occupations where you don't. So I would say pray about it and seek some wisdom on it with mentors and leaders in your life, and talk to people that are doing the thing that you want to do, so they can grant some wisdom there for you.
And I also want to add to this, like, a lot of the times the worry is, well, I can't get to a certain level that they have in their head unless I do this. And I'm gonna be honest with you, man. Like, it's actually pretty optimistic. Like, you can. I've talked to people in seminary and professional teaching philosophers who say you can get very far without the formal education. But they do also say that there's a relevant difference between having the formal education and when you have the formal education, it does something different for you in terms of the, I guess you could say, the shape of your expertise. But that leads also to what Nathan is saying, which is usually that shape of the expertise has a teaching context involved, like a professorship and things like that. So I also add, like, if your worry is that I will be handicapped in my competency in certain subjects, I would say absolutely not. And especially with what we have going on right now, we just dogged on AI, but again, I'll throw out AI, right? There's not a better time to be alive than now with respect to having the most information at your hands to do the most amount of research. Just gonna throw that out there. So
would this model work with inseparable operations that extra opposed by Adonis Vidu? I don't know who Adonis is.
I don't know.
I don't know who that guy is. So and what I would do if I wasn't tired is I would look him up and just find a summary of his position, but I'm tired. So we're not going to do that right now. Thank you again, Randy Bales, for another gifted membership. I feel like AI as a whole has gotten worse recently.
Depends on what circles you're running.
Yeah, I mean, like, Tim just introduced me to Claude today, and I used it to make a really, really cool tool. Tim, I showed you it, right?
Yeah.
For argument I'm making against Authry and Oshry theology, and basically it's like a little flow chart that will help people run the argument that I've put together, because my argument is very modular and it requires a lot of information to know, and it's a tool basically to help people run the argument without needing to have studied a bunch of stuff that I did. So yeah, like, AI is cool like that, I think, but I don't know. Okay, somebody said something, Tim, that I think is a good thing to bring up really quickly. Somebody said, I wish animal pain was something that was more commonly tackled and discussed in theological. Off topic, I know. Onshore, just so you know, bro, Tim and I agree probably in like 90-something% of how we tackle the problem of evil. Like, there's a reason I call it our theodicy. There's tiny little deviations we have, but it's our theodicy. So if you guys want us to talk about the problem of animal pain specifically, or the problem of evil in general, because honestly, dealing with animal pain is actually not that difficult once you deal with, like, it's really not. It's an addendum to the overall discussion of the problem of evil. Why are you laughing?
I'm smiling right now. I like how confident you said that last part, because I completely agree. I'm also smiling right now because this is one of my had a nostalgia moment. This is one of my most proud research projects I've ever decided endeavor on. Changed my life. This subject is the subject. Well, one of the subjects for me. Had a great time. had a really great time learning.
Yeah.
I remember we had these earlier phone calls where I remember pacing my living room, and you asked me a question like, do we agree on the same thing here? Did I get this right? I'm like, yeah, bro. I was nerding out. I'm like, yeah, you do the overlapping probability space normalizing. I'm just like, I remember those days.
Heck yeah.
It's awesome.
All right, guys. We're going to close out the stream. Until next time, guys, God bless. Let us know in the comments what else you want us to see us to cover about this debate. Because there's a lot of stuff we didn't get to cover, but we covered a lot. So let us know in the comments, leave some comments, share the video, all that jazz. Until next time, guys. God bless. And become members of the IPA.